Honestly, you know what? This would be a good transition to our next article, Mike. I'm just gonna go
Yeah.
ahead.
Let's go ahead
Um,
and get to it.
our next article is that Starfield and Redfall, unfortunately, is delayed till 2023. Um, they said, "quote We want to ensure that you receive the best, most polished versions of these games." Um, Bethesda put out a tweet. It's actually earlier today, May 12th, of the recording this show. They put out a tweet with a statement saying, "We made the decision to delay the launches of Redfall and Starfield to the first half of 2023. The teams at Arcane Austin for Redfall and Bethesda Game Studios for Starfield have incredible ambitions for their games, and we want to ensure that they receive the best, most polished versions of them. We want to thank everyone for their excitement for Redfall and Starfield. That energy is a huge part of what inspires all of us every day and drives our own excitement for what we are creating. Can't wait to share our first deep dive into gameplay of both Redfall and Starfield soon. Thank you for the support." And hopefully soon is next month. For Summer Games Fest,
Yep.
especially on the Xbox side because they're having a showcase. Um, Hopefully we see more next month. But I mean, from what I've after reading this, like I was certainly a little like kind of down, like, oh, that sucks. Um, but especially after reading around online and seeing articles, even Jason Schreier touched on this today too.
Yeah, he
In
did.
an article he put on Bloomberg, but he's essentially said, when he was overlooking things like at the kind of mid 2021 when they were like talking about Starfield and stuff, and he like kind of heard rumors and rumblings that they weren't as far along in development as they wanted to be, and like even with moving this to the end of 2022, they weren't sure if they were going to make it. Um, but he also said, especially in games development, even like the team working on it, it's like very hard to determine how much work is actually left, especially when you're that far out from release. So that's kind of like why they didn't delay it last year. But it seemed like it was kind of something that was coming, unfortunately. And don't get me wrong, delaying is I will always much rather want a developer to delay their game rather than release, something just broken. So I'm of course in full support of it. Um, but yeah, it's kind of just sucks. I mean, like I feel like most developers like I feel like nowadays, I was saying this earlier to you, I think nowadays most developers need to come up with a release date and then just immediately pad 6 months on top of it. Just say like, all right, we'll release it
It's getting to
6 months
that
after
point.
that.
It's getting to that point.
I mean, yeah, I personally think like they should start doing that, especially with the amount of delays in the past couple of years, like with COVID and everything. Like that
Yeah.
really like hit hard, but it's like I don't know. I mean, COVID, of course, is still ongoing, so I think at least for the next like couple of years, it's like, or maybe just going forward. But I mean, Unreal Engine 5, I don't know how much more difficult it is to develop games in that engine. Um, but like, especially with the graphical fidelity and everything that's going to provide, it's like, who knows? Like,
Yeah.
I feel like you should definitely just add more time, even if you think you don't need it, because at this rate, like, it seems like a lot of games, like, they just aren't ready. And it's like, even if they think they're ready, they're not. So, I don't know. For everyone's sake, I say we just implement a 6 month padding rule minimum across the industry. That is it. That's it. May now
I
leave.
got one better. I got one better. Stop releasing games that are broken.
Mm,
That's all
very.
it really that's all it really comes down to. At least they're letting us know. So it's May, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're in May. It's supposed to be released on November 11th. And that was significant because that's when Skyrim was released at the same day or the same time, same date in 2011. So they actually had that like little Easter egg in the trailer, if you remember that,
Yeah.
about the release date of Skyrim. And the big thing is like they're letting us know this delay is happening 6 months before the actual like release day.
Yeah.
So they must have a good enough schedule where they realize they're like, guys, we're realistically a year out from this game being
Probably.
done.
Yeah.
So let's push it another 6 months and maybe sometime in May next year. I mean, it doesn't necessarily say the day. They're just like sometime next year, early next year. It's like
Yeah.
that just means any day before June. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It's
it's
like
very
depends
vague,
on
right?
your yeah, it depends on your definition of early.
Yeah.
Um but all that to really say is like I like that Bethesda's actually taking their time to be like, okay, we're not ready. Or maybe that's Microsoft saying it. Although Microsoft hasn't taken over officially yet, they've had to have audited and gone like they got to be sitting on meetings at this point.
Yeah.
right? Like some
I'm
they got to be informed.
I mean,
So
well, I guess that Microsoft deal did close, right? So I mean, surely they
it's
have some
so
because like
I
Activision's of course is out until next year, but I'm pretty sure Bethesda
yeah
they
no
finalized on the
yeah
deal. I know that
yeah you're right.
on the
They
Bethesda
did
deal.
finalize on the deal. I am confusing it with Activision Blizzard.
Yeah,
That's a deal that's been approved amongst both parties. Now it has to go through like a regulatory process to make sure it can
yeah,
like meet all the codes or
which takes up
whatever
to a year
that
and
they
a
got
half.
laws.
Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah. Also, they're two massive companies trying to balance books. That's crazy.
yeah,
And
yep,
stock markets are involved too because they're both publicly traded companies. So, yeah, we're getting a little sidetracked here. But what I'm getting at is Bethesda actually taking their time to make sure that their game's fixed after the failure of Fallout 76 is wise, I think. And I rather them personally, like I know a lot of people are going to be disappointed about the delay and a lot of people are just fed up with delays in general. It's better than the alternative. Ship it out and it's unplayable, you know?
exactly. Yeah, I mean, if any company does this, I applaud them. But like that, but now that like Bethesda's doing this, I will stand up an extra 5 minutes applauding. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
it's because they
Don't make the same mistake.
right. Please, for the love of everything that is holy, do not make the same mistake. And it seems like they aren't going to. I mean, who knows? My only hope is that it doesn't turn into another Cyberpunk where it's like just plagued with delays, and it's just like it gets delayed like 2 years and
Yeah.
so it's like
And the updates are delayed, the DLC is delayed, like
yeah, because
yeah,
yeah, not
that's
yeah. I
that's a
mean, you're right.
mess.
Not only was the release delayed, but then all the extra content afterwards got pushed back too, like from that. So
Yeah.
uh,
It's rough. It
yeah,
is rough. I feel like whoever's making the marketing and business decisions is not involved with the process of building the product, you
yeah,
know?
that's how it is across every developer now, AAA developer anyway. Um,
Yeah.
just how it is, man. Get
The
stakeholders
indie
involved,
devs
it
are
turns into
crushing it
this.
though.
Indie
Uh,
devs are crushing it. And they'll forever be crushing it. Because that independence is what makes good games these days. So,
it
if
is.
I mean, if anything's been shown within the last 5 to 10 years, probably like 5 years, um, it's like it's definitely money is getting more and more involved in the gaming industry. I'm not saying it's necessarily plaguing it. I mean, there's still good games out there, of course, and with due time, I think most games do recover. But at least on launch, man, they don't understand what the development process is like, and it shows on release. Um,
Yeah, I
so
think a lot of the AAA devs that are on the stock market are concentrating more on appeasing the investors and making the books and financials look good. Because if they can push the game early and people still buy it, then they make their money. It makes the investments look good and everything like that. And the quarterlies look awesome. But you're tarnishing your brand in the long run.